how to buy 6% plus agency bonds on Schwab, step by step, and how you can tell when you're buying a new issue versus secondary market agency bond on Schwab. That's what I'll be walking you through in today's video tutorial. Hello, Super Saver. I hope you're healthy and well. For the members and Super Savers in our community who are already familiar with agency bonds, I've included timestamps in the video description below so that you can skip ahead to the step-by-step tutorial. So, this video is about how to buy new issue agency bonds with Schwab. If you're with Fidelity, this is the step-by-step tutorial you should be referring to. I've included the link in the video description below also. If you're with Vanguard or E-Trade, it seems they typically don't offer new issue agency bonds. But if you're interested in a tutorial on how to buy secondary market agency bonds with Vanguard and E-Trade, then drop a comment below and we'll see what we can pull together for you if there's enough interest. Back to Schwab now. This is what the agency bonds with different maturities are trading at relative to US Treasuries on Schwab at the time of this taping. So it only really makes sense in my mind if we look at the longer dated agency bonds. And for those of you new to agency bonds, here's the summary table that I created for our latest member video, which should help simplify your agency bond journey. You should also check out these two Agency Bond 101 videos linked below before purchasing any so that you understand what agency bonds are, what the risk return profile is, and whether they may be suitable for your individual goals, circumstances, and expectations. As usual, here's our front of video disclaimer before we dive in. For a detailed disclaimer, please refer to the end of this video. So, most of our Diamond NestEgg regulars already know that my general preference is to buy new issue agency bonds for the same reasons that I prefer to buy new issue treasuries, because I tend to get the best price with no transaction fees when I do this via the leading brokers, Schwab included. Contrast this with buying agency bonds with Schwab that are not new issues, basically existing agency bonds that are already trading on the secondary market. With secondary market agency bond trades on Schwab, there is a transaction fee of $1 per $1,000 face value purchased online, with a transaction minimum of $10 and maximum of $250. So, here's what my transaction fee would look like if I were to purchase secondary market agency bonds on Schwab. For a $1,000 face value purchase, the transaction fee would be $10 because of the $10 transaction minimum. For a $10,000 face value purchase, the transaction fee would also be $10. For a $100,000 face value purchase, the transaction fee would be $100. Compare this to a $0 transaction fee for new issue agency bond purchases. And if you call in to place your order over the phone, the standard speak to a human charge of $25 will apply. Now, the problem with buying new issue agency bonds on Schwab is that it's not as straightforward as buying new issue treasuries, where you just click on treasury auctions down here. Don't get me wrong, it is possible to buy new issue agency bonds with Schwab, but it does require a bit more effort, detective work, and a bit of trial and error, almost like a treasure hunt basically. Let me show you what I mean. So, first I'll need to log into my Schwab account. And from the screen that appears, I'll go to Research, and from the pull-down menu that appears, I'll select Bonds, CDs, and Fixed Income, which will take me to this Bonds, CDs, and Fixed Income Investments page. And if I scroll down, I can see what agency bonds with different maturities are yielding. You should select the one that best fits your investment criteria. As I mentioned earlier in this video, as well as in our other agency bond videos, I think agency bonds currently only really make sense if we look at the longer dated maturities, as you can see from the yields on these longer dated maturity agency bonds here versus the yields on equivalent maturity US Treasuries. In fact, on the particular day that I was doing this, there aren't even any shorter maturity agency bonds on the list, but this changes regularly and will most likely look different when you log into your Schwab account. If you don't find something that meets your criteria, just keep checking back on a daily basis. So for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to choose this one here because it has the highest yield. So let's click on it. And here's the page that I'll be taken to next. Let's scroll down so that we can see some more. What I would do next normally is click on YTW to sort this column from highest YTW to lowest YTW. But that's unnecessary in this instance because there are only 2 agency bonds on this list. And it's fairly obvious that this first one has the highest YTW. YTW is short for yield to worst, and YTM here is short for yield to maturity. The yield to worst calculation displays the lower of the yield to maturity or the yield to the first stated call date, which in this case of this agency bond here is July 24th, 2024. Meaning that in the worst case scenario, even if this agency bond is called on July 24th, 2024, the earliest possible call date, the worst possible yield that I can get with this agency bond purchase is 6%. And for those of you who are wondering, most agency bonds that we've seen recently are callable. Now, I like this agency bond in particular because it offers the highest yield and a call date that's about 1 year out, meaning worst case for me, this is almost like buying a 52-week T-bill, assuming that the issuer does call it at the first available call date. And the minimum purchase quantity is 1, meaning I can buy as little as $1,000. But in addition, this agency bond here gives me some first indicators that it might be a new issue agency bond. Namely because 1, the YTW, yield to worst, is the same as the YTM, yield to maturity, as you can see here. And 2, the price is $100, par value basically, as you can see here as well. Remember when I mentioned earlier that a bit of effort, detective work, and trial and error are required to search for and find new issue agency bonds on Schwab? This is what I mean. These 2 first indicators here signal to me that this might be a new issue agency bond. I'll show you the third indicator shortly. So going back to this original screen, I can click here to buy straight away. But let's do what I normally do, which is to click on FFCB here, Federal Farm Credit Bank, to learn more about what I'm buying. Let's go through some of the key things I usually look for. Here's the issuer. The coupon is 6.05%. Here's the CUSIP, the issuer name, the S&P credit rating, the Moody's credit rating, the maturity date, and the coupon again. And if I scroll down, I can see that the coupon is fixed and paid semi-annually, meaning 3.025% every 6 months. Here is the evaluated price. You can click on this question mark to learn more about this. The minimum purchase order is 1, or $1,000, and the incremental purchase amount is also 1, or $1,000. Here we can see that the agency bond is callable, and specifically continuously callable, which means that this bond can be called in whole or in part daily, beginning on July 24th, 2024 with 5 days notice. Here's the call price and the next call date. For more information, I can click here. So let's pretend that I'm good to go, in which case I'd now click on the buy button. And this is the enter order screen that appears next. I'll check everything here for accuracy and enter 1 here because I only have enough to buy $1,000 of this agency bond in my Schwab account. Do note that none of this information here can be changed. Now I'll click on review order to keep going. On the next verify order screen, I'll make sure I'm okay with a continuous call beginning on July 24th, 2024 at par. That's fine, and I have no choice anyway if I want to buy this bond, so I'll click continue. And this is the next screen that appears. I'll double check everything here again for accuracy. Now, let's scroll down. And this, my dear Super Saver, is when I get final confirmation of whether this is a new issue or not. There's no transaction fee, so it meets our last test and it's definitively a new issue agency bond. If this was not a new issue agency bond, there would be a transaction fee here of $10 because the minimum transaction fee online for secondary market purchase is $10. So make sure you check this here. Assuming I'm okay with everything, I'd now go ahead and click place order, and I'm all done. You should know that I didn't actually purchase this agency bond because, well, I need the cash in my Schwab account for other purposes, for other tutorials basically. But hopefully this walkthrough will help you find the agency bond that you might be looking for. And yes, I do know this is a very not straightforward way of buying new issue agency bonds, but this is the only way we found that works on Schwab. Now, let's move on to the next section of our video. So, here's a summary of the 3 telltale signs that you're buying a new issue agency bond on Schwab and not an existing agency bond that's already trading on the secondary market. 1. The YTW, yield to worst, is the same as the YTM, yield to maturity. 2. The price is $100, par value basically. And 3. There is no transaction fee. All 3 of these criteria must be met if it's a new issue agency bond. Even if you find an agency bond that meets the first 2 criteria, check to make sure that it meets this last one before you click the place order button. If there is a number here on the verify order screen other than 0, then you're not purchasing a new issue agency bond. Now, if you like a certain agency bond, but it turns out not to be a new issue, that's not the end of the world either, so long as the numbers still make sense for you, despite the transaction fee being applied to it. As I always say, everyone's financial journey is different. The goal of this summary is to help ensure that you don't make the mistake of buying a secondary market agency bond if that was not your original intent. All right, Super Saver, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. For the more conservative folks in our community, check out this latest video here on the top CD rates we found for this month. And for those of you who are slightly more adventurous with your fixed income portfolio and looking for a bit more return with a bit more risk, check out our latest member videos and get your questions ready for our next live member Q&A on August 25th at 5:30 p.m. EDT. Visit our channel page or the join link in the video description below for more details about Diamond NestEgg membership. As always, if you did enjoy this video and learn something new, don't forget to share it with those you care about and hit that thumbs up, and see you again very soon with more brand new wealth building content for your financial journey.